seems to me that there's a number of sort of clear and present danger. Points of clear and present danger right now for our democracy. Obviously, in Republican-controlled states everywhere in the country, we're seeing very, very aggressive efforts to roll back voting rights. Also, quite worryingly, to put partisans in control of key parts of the voting process, including opening up new possibilities for challenging or overturning election results and putting that power in the hands of partisans. We're also seeing this, I think, unprecedented interest on the Republican side with having these partisan third-party sort of sham audits and recounts where they are accessing real ballots and real voting machines and essentially going back over them without any of the controls that are supposed to apply to our real voting system, essentially to cast doubt on the result. Should the Justice Department, whether or not those reforms are passed, should the Justice Department be involved as a sort of backstop trying to stop any of those three components of what we're up against right now?
Yeah, I think the Justice Department has got to be involved and has to be aggressively involved. You know, that fraud that is going on in Arizona now might seem, for whatever reason, as something that Republicans want to support for short-term gain. I don't know exactly what it is, but it clearly will do long-term damage to our democracy if it raises in the minds of people in this country doubts about the effectiveness, the integrity of our electoral system. Let me be clear. There is absolutely no indication that the last election was conducted in anything other than an appropriate way. Record numbers of people got to the polls, had the ability to express their views. Those votes were counted in appropriate ways. Republican state officials responsible for the counting of the votes did their jobs well. Trump's, attorney general, who I have lots of problems with, indicated that there was no fraud in the election. And so all of the things that they are doing now are counterproductive. They are without basis, and they will hurt. They will harm our hard-won democracy.
But isn't there something beyond that, though? Knowing that they are hurting our democracy, knowing that they are inappropriate and unwise, as the way you described, is a criticism of them for doing it. But shouldn't there be somebody who's stopping them? It occurs to me that when Pam Karlan, who is acting as the head of the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department, sent a letter to Arizona warning them that what they were doing in that fraud, as you described, was illegal, was a violation of federal law in terms of the way that ballots and voting machines are supposed to be handled, that should have been followed up with some sort of action. Otherwise, it's essentially the case that they're flouting federal law without paying any sort of price for it.
Yeah, I mean, to the extent that there are violations of federal law, or the suspicions that there are violations of federal law, given the nature of what it is they're trying to do, the consequences from what they are trying to do, the Justice Department has got to be aggressive. Sending a letter is extremely important. You know, that kind of sets the parameters for how the Justice Department could become involved. If the Justice Department is of the view that there is a violation of federal law, or there's something that needs to be investigated, it should be investigated. It should be stopped to the extent that the Justice Department has that ability. And, you know, the DOJ is one of those rare agencies that has the ability to protect our democracy in any number of ways. This is one of those times when the Justice Department, as I said, has got to be aggressive, has got to be forward-leaning in trying to make sure that what is going on in these different states, if it violates federal law, needs to be stopped. Letters are fine, but it has to be followed up with action.